if you're like me, you probably have a lot of stuff that you've accumulated over time. Eventually, we will all have to downsize. I'm here today with Gail Shields, who is the co-founder of Downsizing Diva. I'm super excited to talk to her.
Yes, cutie.
I'm so happy that you are able to join me today to talk about the vision for Downsizing Diva. You have a story that is absolutely inspirational. And I want you to tell your story. Like, I also love the fact of when you started this. So can we please tell us about you, Gail?
Okay. My first career was teacher. And so when I look back now, it's been 20 years since I started this company. I was a teacher back in the 60s. And yet it's very clear that that was the first step on this path. And I can see it now. And from there, I became a stay-at-home mom when my kids came along until I realized that wasn't really me either. But in the meantime, I had joined Sweet Adelines. I became a barbershop singer and then got the opportunities to learn more and do more. And because I'd been a teacher, I could coach and I could train. And so I did both music and administration. And I did that for a long time, which led me from teaching children to teaching adults. And what I do now is teaching adults. We can do the work for them, but they have to know why we're doing it. We have to train and coach.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. It's almost like a legacy piece of connecting the dots.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't know if it's clear to the people who are watching, but you started Downsizing Diva when you were 60.
Yes.
When most people are retiring.
I know, but I was looking after my granddaughters at that point, and they were going to be, the two of them were going to be in school full time. And I was thinking, all right, now what am I going to do? Because I just did not see myself as a retired person. And you know how things happen. I went to visit my son in Vancouver and took a side trip to Victoria to visit a friend. Her mom had moved the day before using a service like this, like mine. But I had never heard of it before. And I just went, oh, I could do that. How hard can it be?
This is a famous quote.
And so it took some time, but I decided to hang out my shingle, and I was 60 when I took a course, lots of courses in trying to understand how to run a business. A teacher doesn't run a business, so I had a lot to learn. And I wanted to make sure that I knew I wanted to work with seniors. I knew it from before I even thought of it, of this, just because they were near and dear to my heart.
Totally. This is why this speaks to me. I'm like, oh my goodness.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I love working with seniors.
Yeah, so do I. Well, but at the same time, it was pretty easy for me because it was one. I was actually 60 when I started my business. And I've been doing it for 20 years.
Do the math on that. 60 plus 20, everyone. She does not look like she is 80.
Well, happy to be 80.
Yeah. I mean, okay. So, this is, I think, so exciting because I think a lot of people would be thinking, what? You started when people are going to be retiring, but you found your passion.
I did.
But I think you've always been the kind of person that follows your passion.
Kind of. And caregiver at heart. I don't think you go into teaching without having a caregiver heart.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what I love about your story about being a co-founder in this is finding your partners, thinking about legacy, the disappointment of that, that you're like, oh, my kid doesn't want to join me on this, right? Like, and then, and that journey, and then expanding your business, not just having a business, but creating a franchise. So from an entrepreneurial, successful business sort of, if we were talking about this, how did this unfold?
Well, actually, Karen and I were still operating Karen was my co-founder and first partner. And we were operating separate businesses. We met just as I was hanging out my shingle. She had been doing it for a couple of years before that. And because it's hard to be a solopreneur.
Yeah.
You have to have somebody to bounce things off. Karen and I both we understood this the same way, that there was tons of work for everybody. We didn't have to keep it close to to the vest kind of thing. And so we talked a lot. We helped each other out. We were fair to each other. And so I did have people right from the very beginning because I needed them. I needed, I could do it back then, but it was hard work. And so I had help. And Karen didn't. She was all on her own. So she would borrow my people when they weren't busy for me. And she was the best speaker. And she would do speaking engagements for me. It started because I had laryngitis one day and I was supposed to be there and I couldn't. And she did an amazing job. And so she would do things like that, to support me. And if business came out of it, it was mine. She was awesome.
Yeah. That trust is so important.
It was, and it lasted through the entire 14 years that we were together.
I mean, I also want to talk to you about that, like that you've already hinted at, was what makes a business, what makes a partnership successful. Like, I think we have lots of people who want to be entrepreneurs, but not one person has all the skill sets necessary.
No.
So how does one sustain and grow, right? Partnership is important, whether it's in life or professionally.
Mm-hmm. In the beginning, Karen and I, Karen's was already very focused on marketing. A coach, we both had the same business coach, and she asked us one time, if you could only work 4 days a month, what would you do with those 4 days? And I said, I would teach, I would train, I would bring people along, I would support my staff and build that. And Karen said, not me. I'd be out talking about it. I'd be talking to everybody I know.
So your coach asked you separately?
Nope, we were together.
Oh, okay.
She'd already said, if you want to do this, I've only got this one lunchtime. If you want to talk and you're both okay with sharing. And we went, sure, we do. So we did. And that led us to the partnership when a friend of ours came to each of us separately and said, I'm giving up my franchise. He was in shipping. And he said, I'm giving up my franchise. I'm joining an umbrella company for franchises. All of their franchises have some relationship to home and services. So I think you'd be perfect. And independently, Karen went and saw him. I had already said, no, I don't think so. I never really started out to do this, big time like that. But then after Karen met with him, she called me and she said, this is fabulous, but I can't do it myself. I need you. So I said, well, how hard can it be?
The refrain, yeah.
And so we went to meet them, and there were 5 of us in the beginning. Since then, Karen and I bought out those partners, And for several years now, we've been doing it on our own. And particularly when my son joined us, because he's got a business head and a finance head, and he really helped us a lot. And we have really good friends who were already in franchising, and they've been supporting us all this time as well.
I mean, I think that building a business, growing a business is about sharing knowledge. Like what I'm hearing is about sharing knowledge, working with people you trust, and those supports that are so important, like someone who's done it before that can give you that feedback.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I just think that's so inspirational. Like I love this because, I mean, I think we need to talk about, what does Downsizing Diva do? Let's start with
Let's talk about that. Downsizing Diva does, as the name suggests, downsizing, organizing, and moving for seniors mostly. It's not that we don't work with anyone else.
Yeah.
But we do focus on seniors because that's where the need is.
Yeah.
And that's what we get it.
Yeah.
And so that we focused on that right from the beginning. And people will call and say, I'm in my late 50s. Would you work with me? Oh, sure. If you need the kind of TLC that we put into our business, because that's who we are.
Yeah.
But most of our clients, are frankly in their 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
And most are moving, not all. But they need some organization. A lot of them, it's the downsize. And when they call, they're saying, I have too much stuff. I'm overwhelmed.
Yes. I hear that from my own clients, which is why.
Yes, I'm sure you do.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, what's your process? Like, so if for people who are interested, I think this is really important. It's a little bit different than just decluttering. This is actually, you provide a service that is taking care of people also emotionally, I think. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, I'm sure that it's a very comprehensive work that you do, because a part of your saying is it's like care, compassion, communication, and comedy, right? And having that sort of joy in doing it. But if we were to go back to seniors who are older, who are like, oh, I've got too much stuff. How do you approach that? Like, what is, like someone calls, hey, Gail, I've got too much stuff. I'm overwhelmed. Mm-hmm. What is the typical experience?
Well, the typical experience, first of all, is to meet face to face and to see how they're living, where they're living, what they have, because that's the only way really that we can make a plan. A lot of people want us to, well, can you tell me how much? No, not over the phone. We have to see it because everybody's unique.
Yeah.
And every home is unique. So we need that opportunity to, and because we can't quote over the phone, we do it no cost, no obligation. And it's really important. But you know what's most important about that session that we do? It's usually about an hour and a half. And sure, we see what needs to be done and we make the plan and we talk it over with them. We're building the relationship and building trust because what we do is so personal.
Yeah.
You have to have that.
Yeah. How long does the process take? I know it'll vary but if someone is interested in using the services of Downsizing Diva, at what point do they contact you?
We would love it if they would contact us months ahead, like even 6 months ahead.
Wow. Okay.
Because it's not that we need to work every day. We don't. But there's a lot to think about, a lot to plan for, a lot to get your head around. We can do it in 2 weeks. But that means that they're making decisions like this.
And that's overwhelming.
It's hard. It is. And it's so emotional. Whereas if you have longer, but some people just can't. They don't want their lifestyle disrupted in any way until the very last minute.
Yeah.
And we can accommodate that. We have a significant staff. And so we can put several people on it and get it done.
So get it done, downsizing. I'm thinking, I'm envisioning paperwork. Like, what do? You come and you sort through the papers? Like, you know what I mean? That's what I almost imagine.
Well, paper is huge. I mean, everybody has paper, everybody. And a lot of it isn't filed all that well, but that's okay. I mean, we do know.
It's good to know I'm human. Thank you for the validation.
Well, I'm the same. And my husband is 100 times worse because there isn't a piece of paper ever crossed his desk that he doesn't love.
Okay.
He prints his emails.
Oh boy.
So when it comes to paper, I totally get it. And we do know and our staff is trained to know what you have to keep and what you don't have to keep. And so in a lot of cases, it's that fear that they're going to make a mistake is what keeps them from throwing something away.
Right.
It's fear that keeps them from not throwing away in the case of things, but parting with it in case you might need it someday. Or it's the fear that maybe it's valuable and I can't just give it away.
Now, we all face this, right? That's, I think, very normal feeling that people have. When you're dealing with people who are seniors, sometimes they're in delicate, vulnerable situations, right? And I think that that's why I think with Downsizing Diva, the fact that you see so much happen and you're aware of those vulnerabilities and that care, like you lead with care and compassion. Mm-hmm. Can you speak to that?
Absolutely. Knowing that right from the very beginning, the first thing I did, and not even knowing Karen at that point, turns out the first thing she did once we decided to do this business separately, we took a course and became certified professional consultants on aging.
Okay.
And it was really important for us. I mean, I was 60. It's not that I didn't get senior issues, but I knew that there was a lot more that I just didn't understand. Mm-hmm. And I also wanted to understand the legal side of it and, the financial side of it and all of that. So the course was extensive. Any certification is. And so it was really important to know that I knew, what I mean?
Yes, that you have the educational background, that you did the homework to do it.
Exactly. And then for me, working with older people, it's language. It's finding the words, because what I would say to you or what I would say to my husband or my mom would be very different than what I might say to my neighbor. It's just everybody understands things differently and processes the information differso it's really important for us to be able to find the words.
Absolutely. So we know that your work is focused on seniors. Mm-hmm. It would be great if you had a 6-month, sort of head start, because of just factoring in minimizing overwhelmness of moving too quickly. And I find this also with my own clients, right? People have busy lives, or people have a lot going on, and they're like, oh, just adding, it's the straw that broke the camel's back.
Sure.
Right. So for children of seniors and elderly people, what's the best way to approach it?
Well, as it turns out, probably half of the people that call us first are the children of seniors.
Okay.
And the other half is the seniors themselves. Okay. And the children are in a really tough spot because, to be truthful, they're dealing with guilt. They want to be able to say, I will stop everything and do whatever you need. I'll help. They can't. They've got kids, they've got jobs, they've got responsibilities. So a lot of cases when they're working with, when we're working with them, it's because they're not here. They're living in the States or, somewhere. And they're not here to help. And they just can't stop everything.
Yeah.
They want to. And the parents want them to, mostly.
Yeah.
And in some cases, I had somebody call me the other day and say, if I try to do this with my mother, we are going to come to blows. We can't do this with each other. I want my relationship with my mom to remain intact, and it won't if I'm trying to part her from her stuff.
Yeah, that's tough. Eh? It's actually that part, I'm not going to say that it's a hoarder mentality, but there's attachment, emotional attachment to a piece of paper.
Yeah, there is. There is, absolutely. And so, there's all kinds of things that we have to do. As I say, it's the language. It's finding the approach and the words to describe it that will help them get to the point. And I like to think it's my husband that trained me.
Okay.
Because what I want them to do is get to the point where they think it's their idea. And that's what I have to do with him a lot of times.
Fair.
Uh-huh. So that's what I do, and when they get to that point, then it's not so hard.
Yeah. I think that's the delicate in the care, right? Because I find especially, I have older parents, I have grandparents. My grandma is 102 years old, and it's that powerlessness, I think, of your stuff, people going through it. That was your stuff.
Yes.
That, so it's a really challenging piece. I've worked with clients where they know they need to downsize, and it's very hard to, whether it's little trinkets, bunch of magazine, these pieces that have collected over years, over decades.
Yeah.
Oh, what does that mean? Well, you don't even use it. You haven't even opened it. We've got to clear it out. We've got to clear space. But how, to provide that care, and trust is something that I am hearing between the lines, and that is so important.
Very, very important. Yeah. You have to be really honest without being brutal. That's the thing, is you have to be honest. Sometimes I'll say, we might be able to take it, but you're going to have to hang it from a sky hook. Have you got one?
Okay. So you use comedy as a way
to deliver
the message. Yeah.
You have to. That, we're not stand-up comedians or anything, but it is important to us. And we tell our staff every day, try and get at least a chuckle. One. Yeah. Because this is serious business, and it's hard work. And if we can lighten it up at all, then it's a better day for our clients.
Yeah. No, I'm sure that there are a lot of those challenges. Right? So if someone wanted to be proactive, what would some tips be?
Some tips. Okay. The first thing I would suggest is dealing with paper.
Okay.
Because honestly, paper takes up, you wouldn't think so, but it takes up so much visual space, and it's always there, and it's always sitting right here. And it's like it's tapping you on the shoulder. You got to do something with this.
Yeah.
And so I would start with that, partly for my clients, because it's something they can do.
Yeah.
It's not heavy. Mm-hmm. Right. So, and I also suggest once they start working with the stuff, the first thing I suggest is a floor plan. and understanding the space that they're moving to, actual measurements to scale. We do them. We have somebody that does them for us
That's great.
on the computer. I used to do it on graph paper and cut the furniture out of the sticky ends of Post-it notes.
Oh, I love it.
But it worked.
Yeah, of course.
And it's when our clients can see the space and can go, well, can I try this? Oh, I see what you mean. Then they're making informed decisions and they're getting it.
Yeah.
And then they can do it.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think that's really helpful because it's the visualization, right? Like most people I find are living in the houses that they've raised their families in, and then they've got to go down to a 2-bedroom condo, right? Mm-hmm. Like, so that's a lot of purging.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. My husband and I moved. It's 9 years ago now. And we left half our house. Yeah, well, we didn't leave it behind. We got rid of it first, but we got rid of half of our house. And it didn't feel like getting rid of it. Karen always says, we need to say, release it. And that's what it did feel like, was releasing it, because we knew we really tried to give everything safe passage into a new home where it can be used again. Now, there are some things it can't be, but for the most part, that's our aim.
So what do you do? So we've got like sorting through the papers, helping people visualize what their space is. But what about with the furniture, releasing the furniture? Do you sell it? Do you take it? Like how does that process look like?
Oh, that's the hardest, because there are so few places where we can find a new home these days.
Because they're so big.
Yeah. I mean, one of the solutions that we have, and we've been doing it for about a year now, is working with refugee not agencies, but actually community groups who are helping families to find new homes and then to set them up.
Yeah.
And we've had some real success there.
Because I almost think logistically, because I've tried to help, like I've worked with refugees, I've worked with newcomers, and often I'm like, okay, I know like getting a place has been really hard. How can we set you up with things, right? And on Facebook groups, different, like online communities, people will say, hey, I need this. And people will step forward with things. Mm-hmm. So I'm just kind of curious, do you have like a warehouse that you store things in? Or do you have to almost like, okay, here's a location, now we've got to move it to the next place?
We actually usually use the whatever storage facility the organization has.
Okay.
Occasionally the timing isn't quite right, and we do have a storage facility really close to here, actually. And we got a really good deal with them because they wanted to help too. And so we can afford to keep that space, and we use it. Sometimes we use it for client stuff. It's going to be going to the new home,
right?
But not on the day that the old home is closing.
Yeah.
So it's for short-term storage for them. And a lot of times it's when the things that we have, there's no place for them to go, but they're going to be needed. They're perfect for a family type of thing.
Isn't that so amazing about the power of community?
Oh, yes. Oh, it's incredible. The organization that we're dealing with, one of them is a group from, I think they're based, the facility anyway, is based in King City. It's a long way for us to go, but they will come and pick things up, and they're using a borrowed trailer, and people that give up even their day job for a half a day to come and help. And, and they're doing everything they can to support In this case, it's Ukrainian refugees, and they're amazing. They're wonderful.
I love that. Like, I mean, I think I've talked with so many different people, and that common thread comes through. Yeah. It's asking the universe, put it out into the universe, and the universe responds. And it is about the connections that we bring as people. It's not like, okay, we got an issue. Okay, let's talk this out. Mm-hmm. Instead of being isolated and not saying, I need help. Right. Like the moment someone puts up their hand, like usually people will be responsive in a positive way. Mm-hmm. So get rid of paper.
Get a floor plan.
Get a floor plan. Release the furniture.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But you need to know that you're going to have what you need. So, you need that floor plan. You need to understand how you function. That's why I say 6 months. Yeah. Because to just raise your awareness level, you're so used to your lifestyle, you don't even think of what contributes to it.
That's so true.
And so, but if you have to do it in 2 weeks, then we can tell you what contributes to it.
So you come with the squad and you're like, okay,
if we have to.
Mm-hmm. So typically, who would they be working with? Like, how many people would they be working with through this process of downsizing?
Normally 2. Yeah. We would always have a team leader on the job, and then one organizer working with them. And, sometimes almost always we start with just the team leader because it's not me. Used to be, not anymore. Yeah. And so I really do like for them to have a session or 2 one-on-one because, again, the trust has to transfer then from me or Kelly, who also does the assessing and the estimating. And it has to transfer from us to the team leader who's going to be on the job.
So is it really expensive?
Can be.
Like, what do people need to sort of ballpark baseline budget for?
Well,
it's a tough question. I know. So that's why I'm like, it's hard. Like,
I used to say, think of it. And now this was when I first started, and it actually panned out most of the time. I used to say, think of 1 to 1.5% of what you are going to sell your house for.
Okay.
However, now that houses are selling for $1.5 million, it's not 1%. It's less than that.
Yeah.
But it still is into the thousands. Yeah. It is. For, a small move, maybe 3 or 4.
Right.
But we do have moves up around 10. So.
No, and that's fair, right? Yeah. Because it's the care, helping people visualize what they're moving from, helping people, like, is it like includes someone packing things up?
Yes.
Like they're packing their house down. Like, it's not that different than the cost of moving. No. Like, moving is not cheap.
No. And actually that includes the cost of moving.
Yeah.
Because certainly we'll work with a mover that our clients choose, but a lot of times they are very happy to leave it with us.
Yeah.
We're not movers. I don't ever want to be in the moving business. But of course, over 20 years, I've met some really good ones and they've stuck. And, they understand us. We understand them. And they enjoy working with women.
Yeah. Well, that's really important because that can be intimidating. You think 2 guys in a pickup truck or whatever, right? Yeah. Like, this is my precious armoire. Like,
Yeah. So it's really important to us to, we've had the odd bad experience, but for the most part, we've had really good experiences because we're there.
Yeah.
And we're watching. We're saying, excuse me.
Yeah.
I know you don't think it's any of my business, but I've done a lot more moves than you have. I just don't pick up the stuff.
Yeah.
And I have.
Yeah. Well, you're an advocate, right?
Oh, yeah.
You're a personal champion, that building the trust, building the relationship, figuring out what's the most important, like primary items that they will carry forward to their next place, and making sure that that's a smooth transition. Like, I think that's invaluable. I mean, obviously there's a price point to it, but
Mm-hmm. It is really important. And, and the thing is that they're so, in some cases, they're so afraid of taking too much that they almost want to take nothing.
Okay.
And you can't do that either.
Right.
It's still got to be home when you get there.
Yeah.
And so it's really important to surround yourself with the things that you love and that make you smile. You have to have those.
Absolutely, for sure.
But as Karen always used to say, Julie Andrews sang about a few of her favorite things, not all of them.
I love that. One of the things in terms of I had mentioned to you was like, as a woman, as a successful woman, entrepreneur, we know that there are challenges in doing it. And you self-taught yourself. You went to courses. You're like, okay, I'm going to do this. And when I said, hey, what are the challenges that you face that might have been gender, specific or anything like that? I thought your response was so interesting.
Oh, the fact that I'm in a female-oriented business. There is no glass ceiling. There's no ceiling.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's most of us are women.
Yeah.
I go to a conference every year with National Association of Senior and Specialty Move Managers. And it's a big organization, and the conferences are invaluable, and we are there every year, no matter what. And we are seeing in the last maybe 5 years, we've seen men. In the beginning, we didn't see any.
Yeah.
And then there'd be one or two. And now there are a lot. There's probably maybe 20 to 30%. But a lot of them are working in their wife's business.
I love that. Like, I think that it's great that we see this empowerment, right, of women like excelling and creating business. That's important.
Yeah. And a trade organization's job is to empower their members. And with us, it started out all women. And so empowering women is what we do.
Yeah.
And it's really important to be a part of that. And I love being a part of, an organization that just assumes that, of course, we can do it.
Just assumed.
Yeah.
I think that that's really, really powerful. One of the things that I was thinking about was, so now your son is a part of your business.
Yes. He was our CFO for the past quite a few years. And when Karen decided to retire, first of all, he was during COVID, we actually bought our biggest competitor.
Okay.
She was ready to retire, and this gave her the opportunity. We'd already referred to each other when we were too busy or away or whatever. So she trusted us. And so we bought the company. And Geoff, my son, he was our negotiator and driver, and he just did that, and he knew how. That's his business now, is mergers and acquisitions. And he thinks Downsizing Diva is kind of like his side hustle. The other job is his side hustle. but he just did it. He's really good at that. And he brings that business sense that neither Karen nor I ever had.
Yeah.
And it changes things, but it's better.
I love it. I think it's such a success story. So franchising, how many franchises are there of Downsizing Diva?
We have 16 in and around the GTA.
Yeah.
And hoping to grow. We started franchising in, our first franchisee came on board in 2010. And we did at one time have a franchise in Victoria, BC, and one in St. John, New Brunswick at the same time.
Coast to coast.
I know, that's what we used to say. But it was hard for them. They were a long way from us, and certainly in Victoria, the service was well known. But it was tough to be on your own, and then that franchisee's husband got involved in politics, and she needed to support him, so she gave up her business. And in St. John, it was too new, and she was a realtor actually.
How interesting.
And her real estate business was going nuts, and this was too new, and it just was too much to try and do both. So then we were back to Ontario, and we still are, but our 16th franchisee is actually launching on Tuesday.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So if people are interested in franchising, obviously you're open for business. You'd love to go coast to coast. Then
Sure.
They contact Geoff.
Yep. Or they look, well, actually, Scott. And he's our friend who is in the franchising business and still doing, the recruiting and with his partner, Shelley.
Yeah.
And they're doing that part for us. And so you just have to go on our website, and it takes you right to their telephone number, and off you go.
I love it. I wanted to ask about, before we go into your favorite quote, because I love it, because I think it's really the refrain that we've been going over and over. Thoughts that you want to share about being in this business, or your experiences or advice?
Well, in the first place, it is a business where you get a chance to make a difference in somebody's day every day.
Yeah.
And it's very rewarding that way. And so it's a beautiful business to be in. You have to be a caretaker, a caregiver by nature, I think.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, where do you get the patience? Where do you get the compassion? And you have to have that.
Yeah.
You have to, for us, because that is our focus, you have to understand and like working with seniors.
Yeah.
And that's really a big part of it. We can train the rest.
Yeah.
But you have to be a caregiver who likes seniors, and then we're good. We can make it happen.
Yeah. The rest of the skills can be trained.
Sure.
But it's the heart. I mean, I feel like one of the common threads that I see in so much success that people are loving what they do. The success comes from the joy of making a difference, or what they get. Their buckets are filled.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I don't think, because the work is hard, I don't think I would have, I don't think I would have stayed in this business, but because it feeds me.
Yeah.
And it feeds the people that work for us.
Yeah.
Because, you don't make a fortune at it either.
Yeah. Well, you're giving employment, you're helping people transition. Mm-hmm. And, the takeaway of how to prepare is really important, because I think a lot of people sometimes, by the time they wait to call your services, it might be really late.
Oh yeah, it is, because it's a hard decision to make, to leave your home. And a lot of times it's a crisis that forces you to make it. That's why, our message is always think about it. Think about it now.
Yeah.
Think about it when you don't need it.
Yeah.
Because then there isn't so much emotion around it, not so much fear. And you can actually take time to make decisions.
So sort the paper. I mean, you may not have a place in mind, but sort the paper. Think about what items you can be without. Mm-hmm. What are the things that make you happy? Mm-hmm. What are the things that are home?
Yep.
and identify that and get rid of the rest of the stuff.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
That's the greatest gift that you could give to your kids, right?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So your favorite quote, which we have said, when the one that you ask yourself when presented with any challenge or opportunity is, how hard can it be?
Yep.
I love it. It's just that optimism and that how hard can it be?
Well, thinking that way, then you will take that first step. Yeah,
absolutely. Thank you so much, Gail. I really appreciate this conversation and time with you.
It's been such a pleasure. Thank you.
It has been. I've really enjoyed it. I think it'll be really insightful for people who are thinking about downsizing, whether they're seniors or not, right? Mm-hmm. But even like kids to older parents, like I'm in a sandwich generation.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Most of our franchisees came to us because they moved their parents. They had the experience. They knew they could do it. And they just wanted to do it right.
I love it.
And 20 years of experience means you do it pretty well.
Absolutely. Efficiency.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you.